There are, as I say, a few stories that are of concern to me, at the very least, but I'm sure to many others. There was a report out that came out a day before last, I think, of an FSSP pastor who was arrested on alleged child pornography charges in Providence, Rhode Island. I almost reported on it. I put it on sort of the back burner. A lot of times in these cases, I found that you want to wait a day or two. You want to kind of see how things go. And the temptation to jump on it quickly is great, but you never know how things are going to go with these stories. But let me read a little bit to you, and I want to comment on this. Here's the article out of the National Catholic Register. I don't know, Adrian, if you can pick up my desktop or not, but here's the story. Father James Jackson, a priest of the Priestly Fraternity of St. Peter, FSSP, a pastor of St. Mary's Church in Providence, Rhode Island, was arrested at the parish on October the 30th and charged with 3 crimes related to child sexual abuse material. Father Jackson, 66 years old, was charged with possession of child pornography, transfer of child pornography, and child erotica prohibited, the Rhode Island State Police announced on Sunday. The arrest stemmed from an investigation by Rhode Island State Police Computer Crimes Unit's Internet Crimes Against Children task force, which discovered that the internet connection at the rectory at St. Mary's Church was being used to share child sexual abuse material, the state police said. The state police executed a search warrant on Saturday at the parish and then arrested Jackson after determining that he was the owner of the material, the state police said. Father Jackson was formerly pastor of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic Church in Littleton, Colorado. He gave the homily at the March 29 funeral mass for Eric Tolley, a Boulder police officer and Catholic father of 7 who was killed in a mass shooting at a Colorado supermarket. God rest his soul. Jackson became pastor of St. Mary's traditional Latin Mass parish on August the 1st. In Rhode Island, the charge of, quote, child erotica prohibited, unquote, is defined as the production, possession, display, or distribution of, quote, any visual portrayals of minors who are partially clothed, where the visual portrayals are used for the specific purpose of sexual gratification or sexual arousal from viewing the visual portrayals, unquote. If convicted, all 3 charges, Father Jackson faces up to 21 years in prison. An October 31 statement from the Diocese of Providence said that Father Jackson has, quote, been prohibited from the sacred ministry and the exercise of office of pastor, unquote, by Bishop Thomas Tobin of Providence as a result of the arrest. The statement said that the diocese had been presented with a letter of suitability for ministry for Father Jackson prior to his arrival in the state, and that the parish will continue to be entrusted to the care of the FSSP. Now, here's the thing. I have a degree in IT, and I can tell you, just right out of the gate, just reading from just this source alone, nothing in this source says that Father Jackson was, in fact, the guy responsible for the material, possession, or transfer of it. Simply that he was the owner of a computer and that the internet connection at the residency was used to transfer this material. That's not proof that Father Jackson himself was involved in any way, shape, or form. So that's one thing I think we ought to keep in mind. But this reminds me, what was it like 4 or 5 months, 6 months ago, maybe now, Adrian, that we were talking about Father Rutler in New York, and the story broke that Father Rutler was being accused of similar activities, not child pornography, but pornography, and there was a woman involved, and it was like a very scandalous story. And we're all thinking, Father Rutler, are you kidding? Like, if you had to guess, of all the priests, Father Rutler wasn't going to be on your top 100 list. And, of course, he claimed innocence and he let things play out. And it turns out the story was falsified and fake, and he was restored. Praise be to God. His reputation was restored. Praise be to God. Now, I don't know Father Jackson from the FSSP. I have no experience or history with him. I do attend an FSSP parish. Praise be to Jesus. But from what I'm gathering, people who do know him are saying, similar to Father Rutler, his reputation is such that this would be an absolute shocker that if this were true. And I wonder if time will tell, and we should hope and pray that that this is false, that this is fake, that this is not true, and then he is restored to his integrity. Praise be to Jesus.
I think this is incredibly important to know, is that someone's reputation is very important to them, and this is and not just important to them. They have a right to a good reputation, which is why revealing someone's sins, even if it's true, and but it's not a public scandal or public sin, you should not reveal it, because people have a right to their good name, and his name will never be restored 100% if it comes out to be false. And remember, he's innocent until proven guilty. And for Father Jackson, especially for someone of his reputation, I know many, many people who know Father Jackson personally. I know many priests who know him personally. People who are fraternity priests, people who are society priests, people who are diocesan priests, and everyone in between. And they all have said this is like unheard of. Many people have told me that he doesn't even have a smartphone. He uses a flip phone. He doesn't know how to use technology. That it wasn't even a parish computer. I mean, it wasn't his computer. It was a parish computer, not connected to him in any way, at least not directly. And all these things, a lot of people are saying that they think he's being set up for some reason. They don't know why he's being set up, but they believe he's being set up for some reason, and they just don't understand why. And I think it's very important that we kind of keep this in mind. Restoring the Faith media, Mike with Restoring the Faith, he did a great video on YouTube yesterday talking about this, and he's raising money to hire a private investigator, because he's like, I don't trust what the situation here is going on. And he said, I don't even understand why the fraternity didn't post his bail. Well, he was like, they didn't post his bail, and they just left him there. And so that's very suspicious. He doesn't know what's going on. So he wants to raise money to hire a private investigator and help pay for his legal fees. Well, it's very concerning.
Like we say, the charges are alleged at this point, and just from an IT perspective, it seems rather interesting. I guess the investigation has to happen, right? Okay, so is this your computer? Yes. Okay, great. So, well, now you're responsible, because on this computer is illegal material, grotesque illegal material. So what we would want is for the truth. We would want, if it turns out it be true, and there is evidence beyond the shadow of a doubt, then we would want Father Jackson to be held accountable for this grievous crime. If not, we would want him to be restored to his good integrity. So let's pray for the situation, for God's will to be done, and for truth to be found.
And nonetheless, his books are good no matter what ends up happening. Just saying, they're great books. It
was a shocker when the Rutler story came out.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I was shook a little bit by that, because Rutler, I mean, good grief, I just can't see it coming. I just couldn't see with Rutler's reputation that would be true. And it was good news that he was restored.
Absolutely. The good news is all the books that Father Rutler wrote, that Father Jackson wrote, and all the people who are accused of evil things, the things they have said that are true, good, and beautiful are still good, true, and beautiful, even if it turns out that they themselves in their private lives were wicked people. So it shouldn't be a scandal of destroying your faith.
Many in our audience would know Father Karapi's name, and that might be a good example of that. All right, so there's a lot to pray for in that situation. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll report back when we know more. Let's turn to this story out of the National Catholic Register as well. Students at Catholic High School in San Francisco stage walkout protest of pro-life assembly. And as I said in the intro, this is a story I saw a couple of weeks back and passed on it. Just because I'm like, it's San Francisco. We like, that's probably par for the course. But I got to be honest, it's been bugging me a little bit not to have talked about it. So let me read a little bit of the story for you. The article goes like this. Students at a Catholic high school in San Francisco staged a walkout last month to protest an all-school assembly which featured a pro-life speaker. Despite the students' actions, the school's president defended the talks as, quote, an opportunity to come together in order to learn more about the dignity of human life, unquote. Archbishop Riodran, how do I say that? Archbishop Riodran High School. I guess that's correct. Archbishop Riodran High School, which is administered by the Society of Mary, hosted an all-school assembly October the 22nd featuring pro-life speaker Megan Allman. Allman tours the country with the Life Training Institute, a Christian pro-life organization whose talks aim to, quote, empower others with the knowledge and conviction necessary to make a case for life that changes hearts and minds, unquote. According to an account of the incident by the San Francisco Chronicle, students began to exit the auditorium and file into an adjacent gym about 5 minutes into the presentation, leaving, quote, a few dozen of the school's more than 800 students in the auditorium for the entire talk. 800 students and only a few dozen are left in the room. That means the vast majority of these students at a Catholic school walked out on a pro-life speaker. The walkout has since gained media attention after a video of the walkout went viral with several 100,000 views on TikTok. Quote, my school tried to hold a pro-life assembly, unquote. On-screen text on the video of a throng of mass students reads, so we walked out. The Chronicle interviewed several students who identified themselves as pro-choice and found a pro-life talk, quote, frustrating, unquote, especially, they said, Allman's comparison of the number of babies killed in abortion to the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. Well, it's way more, actually. I mean, like, a lot more. Like, magnitudes more people lost in the murderous act of abortion than in the Holocaust. And the Holocaust was horrible. The Holocaust was evil and horrible. That makes abortion that much worse. Look at this. This is mind-blowing to me. A Catholic school in the Archdiocese of San Francisco. All of their students walk out. Where was their faculty? Where was the principal? Why send your students to a Catholic school if you reject Catholic teaching? I'm just curious. Why do that? I remember when my oldest son, we adopted him and we needed to find a school for him. And we looked at local Catholic schools. And I noticed the ideologies that were contrary to Catholic teaching. And I said, no, I'm not going to pay you to indoctrinate my kid. The only thing I want my kid to learn is the true, the beautiful, and the good by Holy Mother Church. The teaching passed on from Christ to his apostles and down through the ages. No exceptions, no apologies, no excuses. That's all I want. We don't embrace the world, the flesh, and the devil because it feels good and a majority do it. Catholic schools need a reformation, in my opinion. They need to come back to Holy Mother Church. It's time for that. Let's pray for that. We'll be right back. More breaking news and stories at CatholicVote.org is coming up next.